cafes offer inviting spaces where you can bank, get answers to your financial questions, recharge your devices, and connect to on-the-house Wi-Fi, all with a handcrafted Pete's beverage in hand. Capital One cardholders get 50% off Pete's handcrafted beverages every day. With extended hours, ATMs, and plenty of space to get comfortable, Capital One cafes are built to fit your life. Hey, I'm Angela, and welcome to Creative Disruption. This series was created for the innovations and the challenges that came out of last year. Whether you're a freelancer, a side hustler, just starting out in business, or maybe you've had 20 years in, it doesn't matter. The whole point of Creative Disruption is to talk about how to grow, how to pivot, and how to adapt. In this series, you're going to learn about ways to manage cash flow, best insights on personal branding, and ways to market your business. And I know that if you're like me, you always want to learn, you always want to grow. So I'm really looking forward to sharing Creative Disruption with you. Lula Lake Worth Arts offers a diverse, multicultural community with an artistic soul and plenty of historic charm to spare. With multiple murals and access to one-of-a-kind public art, Lula is the premier destination for enhancing livability and advancing economic prosperity in Lake Worth Beach. Visit them at lakewortharts.com. When you think about some of the most flourishing and culturally diverse cities around the world, they always have one common denominator, and it's art. Whether you're visiting an art gallery or experiencing a mural, art has the power to create a community that is full of culture and life. When art is a part of a community, it has the power to change lives. Art not only helps to drive tourism, but it stimulates businesses as well. And according to American for the Arts, the arts and culture sector is a $730 billion industry. In this episode, I had the pleasure of speaking to two artists from Lake Worth, Florida. Both of these women are a part of a flourishing artist community. Louise Noakes is a fine arts photographer who started making photograms in the darkroom in the 1970s and today is manipulating digital photographs with collaged images. She has always been interested in pushing the boundaries of her photographic medium to achieve her own artistic voice. Nune Asatryan is an Armenian multidisciplinary fine artist. Her work reflects the great ancient culture of historical Armenia mixed with contemporary and modern life. Her style is described by art critics as reflecting symbolism, surrealism, and mystic impressionism. I asked Louise and Nune to share their background and how they grew up in art.
I came from artist family, and that was big advantage in my life. My dad was monumental sculptor, and born to that and growing up with that, you get really influenced. It was just big luck to grow up in art as a child.
My art kind of has a flow. I mean, I'll flow from taking photographs in the streets, street photographer, to doing collage work. I have a lot of different projects going on at the same time. I've had some projects that have been going on for years, and I just keep adding. But as far as what I'm working on, I started working on doing some interactive abstracts that move. Some of them move. So that's been sort of what I've been working on the last couple of weeks, and hopefully I will get a few pieces finished and be able to display them.
Both the women are a part of a local artist community, and I wanted to know, in their opinion, what they thought about the importance of community and how it has shaped their careers.
I mean, we've got musicians, we've got people that do sort of industrial design kind of work, We've got painters. We've got people that teach classes in their homes. We've got dancers. So, but it's interesting, talking to them because we can have some really good conversations because because we're all creatives, we can all communicate in a lot of the same ways.
For me, it's important in art communities to be able to show more, to exhibit your work. And being in community of artists, being in group, having friends as an artist, you get an invitation to show, you get an invitation to get together and have a critique or dialogue about art, which is very important. Yes, I think having community, having support, not just even artists, but other parts like the grants, like I said, some administrative help, some places we can show art, and other spaces we can get together and share with our audience and our vision and our thoughts, and get the feedback. It's very important.
I asked both women their final thoughts about this past year and what they have learned.
It was not easy, but with every hardship we can learn really valuable, good lessons. Being kind to each other, being kind to your animals, to the plants, and to the planet in general.
It all gave us time to really reflect on it, besides reflecting on ourselves too and what we thought. So, I think that Nune is right. I mean, we all need to be a little bit kinder to each other, or hopefully that we've learned that.
I hope you enjoyed that interview, and now it's time to take out your pen and paper. Don't go anywhere, because we are going to do a webinar where we discuss exactly what we just talked about, taking actionable steps for you to use, and we're going to do a live Q&A. Hey everyone, thank you for joining me tonight. I'm Angela, and I was so excited to share the interview that I had with Louise and Nune. I know if you're an artist out there or you're a creative person, you completely understand where they're coming from, talking about community, talking about the struggles that have lasted for a very long time. And so I want to bring you now to the point where I want to take what they're talking about and kind of create some like real actionable tips, things that you can leave after you watch this and really dive in deep, take a look at your own career and really say, what am I missing? So in this part, I really want to talk about running your arts career as a business. This is so important, and really thinking like an entrepreneur is the way that I really laid out this section. I really want you to dive in deep, use some self-reflection, just like we all do as business owners, and really see what you're doing or maybe not doing. I think this is an important thing to mention, that a traditional career path does not exist for an artist. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. And you really need to treat selling your art or goods just like an entrepreneur would treat selling their products. When I talked to Louise and Nune, some of the things they really mentioned rang so true with me. Starting my business 10 years ago, thinking like an entrepreneur is a difficult task when you're so focused in on just creating content creation, just go, go, go. And really stepping back and saying, wait, I not only have to make sculptures, murals, a product, I have to think like a business person. That is a whole nother layer of complexity. And so really, in order to do this, you have to have basic skills and a willingness, just like I mentioned it before, to approach selling art just like an entrepreneur would. You know, I want to make mention, this is live right now. I'm in real time. So I want to make sure if you want to comment or you have something to say or you have a question to ask, feel free to go into the chat and type it, because I would love to address that with you as I'm talking about this and have this as a conversation. You know, if you're really serious about building a sustainable art career, and I have a good feeling you are, if you're sitting here watching this, there are definitive steps that you need to take to build and maintain your business. So let's go ahead right now and discuss the ways you can start to really build and maintain a business that makes sense for you. So let's first talk about number one, really understanding your audience, right? Look, every entrepreneur learns the habits of their audiences, and they know, let's say, for example, the prices their audience are willing to pay, where to find their audience, what they're buying. Have you taken a moment now to really reflect on what you've done for your audience? You might be saying right now, Angela, I know exactly who my audience is. I got this one covered, right? And that's great. But if you're still maybe a little bit unsure and you're saying, well, I think I know my audience and I really don't know if I have nailed it down, let's go into this next part. And I think that will show you that it's talking about personal branding. So this is an interesting concept, right? And the whole ultimate purpose of branding is to thoroughly and quickly share the missions, values, and aspirations of your business to attract people who you love, what you stand for, and obviously repel the people that don't. If you think about that in the personal branding, going back to the first part, really understanding your audience, that's where you can really dive in deep. Maybe you're a non-for-profit. Maybe you work and you're in the arts and cultural sector. Maybe you work for a cultural division. Really knowing and understanding your audience and thinking about how the personal brand, the persona you put out there, whether you're a person or an organization, is really, really crucial and important. And obviously, look, when you're alone, it is hard. If you're a solopreneur and you're a team of one person, it is hard to kind of be thinking about these things. But I can tell you, the more that I jam this idea in your mind right now, and the more I say this over and over, and the more you think about it, it actually becomes easier. And you'll start to say, hey, have I thought about some of these things? And that's the whole point of all this, is not to make you feel bad or say you haven't done enough. It's just to have some self-auditing, just like a real business would. They're going to sit down and audit and say what's working and what's not working, okay? And that's all I want you to do right here and now. You know, also, remember here that everyone, no matter what their industry, already has a personal brand. And right, this includes, just like I mentioned, your professional reputation. It's what you're doing on social media and all the other things that maybe you haven't kept up on, but maybe you can have some self-reflection and say, you know what, I don't know if I've really figured this all out, but I'm going to take a deep dive into what I am doing and just see what works and what doesn't work. Also, it's important to know to start thinking about your brand identity now and what you can do to keep improving it over time. I guess there's nothing like the new year, right? To say, hey, let me take a self-reflection and really look at what hasn't worked and what has worked. A really clever way to think about this too is, because our background is in magazine publishing, we would always print a magazine every quarter. And if you want to take this idea along with you today, is think about self-auditing every 3 months, every quarter. Take a look at those social media posts. Take a look at the emails you might have sent, or maybe the videos you've put online, and look at the ROI, the return on investment that you're putting out there. What worked the best and what didn't work? And the moment, I guarantee you, the moment that you start really looking at those analytics, because I love analytics, you'll start to see some trends and some patterns, even days to post. I was just looking the other day and found that there was a better day for us to post a podcast versus the day I'd originally thought, right? And that wasn't until I went in the back end. It's all available to most of us now, right? And just kind of looked and said, oh, this day outperformed this day. I'm going to change the day now. And so you all have control over that. And so that's what the wonderful part of all of this is that you do have so much control over what you're doing all the time. And I want to empower you to make those decisions. Let me tell you, if you change something up, no one's really going to pay much attention. Now, maybe you're going to pay attention to this different day I just mentioned my podcast. Maybe you don't even notice and you're going to forget after I mentioned it. I'm not quite sure. But the point is that it's okay to change things up and just kind of do whatever works best for you. I also want to make mention is to keeping yourself organized. I know this sounds so simplistic in theory, but look, you have to remember that every business has to keep track of money, of sales, and of inventory. And maintaining and cataloging your own work is really going to be the key to you knowing what's exactly going on as a successful artist, or whether you're a creative entrepreneur, whatever it might be. You know, it's also important. I found this really cool site. It's specifically for artists or art organizations. It's called Artwork Archive, and it provides artists, collectors, and organizations powerful tools to manage their artwork, career, or collection. So isn't that cool to know that there is software, things out there that you can kind of just do and say, hey, let me organize myself. All of us have to do it, right? It's not easy. It's kind of easier just to say, hey, let me go and do an order or do a sale and not really pay attention to what's going on. And it happens to the best of us. But if you can find cool solutions like that, that's one of probably many, especially for artists, you realize that you have a lot of control and power over the decisions you need to make for your business. I think it's important also as an artist to think about this. Always get everything under contract. You should, in theory, never really sell a piece of art without a contract. And here's why. A contract sets the parameters of what you're doing so there is no confusion of any terms. It helps protect your reproduction and exhibition rights. And also, the more you treat your transactions like a business, the more natural it will be over time to really advocate for yourself. I know that another point that I didn't make mention on that slide that is really awesome when you have contracts is if, let's just say, you write a contract and it hasn't come to, it's maybe something from a couple of months ago. You're busy, you're doing other work. You might forget what you actually wrote on that contract. That contract is going to be able to say, hey, look, I owe this person X, Y, and Z. I forgot about X. Let me add that back in. And that's really the importance also of a contract is it's the reminder of what I owe to one person and what they owe to me. And that's the benefit there. Another tip that I thought was really important to make mention when you're really thinking about building out your career is to not work in a vacuum, right? Every single business is built on relationships, right? And having a network of great people around you is the key to success. At least in my opinion. You can agree to disagree here, but I'm at least going to say that I agree with that. And look, most entrepreneurs know they can't run a business on their own. They get advice from other successful businesses and people, and they reach out when they need help and they don't know what to do. How about also the mistakes you make? You know, it's not like running a business is going to guarantee no mistakes. You remind yourself that even every mistake that you make is another learned lesson. And so actually reaching out to other people, they can remind you of that. I also want to make mention something I think is super important is also reaching out to people or mentors that are not exactly in your same industry. Don't be afraid to reach out to somebody that's in the finance, or maybe someone that has a law background, or maybe there's a person that's a CEO of a company that you really respect and you can maybe follow and practice under. You know, don't be afraid to go outside of your niche. Obviously, it's important to see what other artists, if you're in an arts career, look at what they're doing, seeing what they're doing, but really learning how to grow that business mindset and seeing how other people do it outside of your industry is really, really important. And something that we started doing. And let me tell you, the moment we started doing that, we started to see little key indicators of what they were doing. And we realized we were able to see what we were missing, right? What were we missing in our own business that we can now implement, which is really, I think, important. Ooh, Another tip is pitching the press consistently. So you might be saying, duh, I already pitch the press all the time, but are you doing it consistently? And I think it's important to make mention here some little small things that you should keep in mind is sending out your name, your bio, your work dimensions, always having images ready, especially with no attachments. There's too much spam and scams out there. People are not going to most likely, unless they know you very well, go ahead and take something and download it, right? So make everything accessible, like a Dropbox link or something like that. And make sure to do your research. Make sure you pitch the right journalists that cover topics that are similar to your art or whatever you have going on. I want to put this idea in your mind right here and right now, is to think like a journalist. Try to find an angle to pitch that interests the writer. Have you thought about maybe it coincides, let's say your art coincides with a social movement or a timely event. You can find narratives that make sense to get them to pay attention to you, because you may not be aware of this. Journalists, especially news journalists, can have up to 500 emails in one day. So imagine them sifting through and looking at your press release or your topic that you're sending to them. Are you thinking like a journalist when you pitch them? Are you thinking about their needs, their wants, what they might want to cover, right? And I'm telling you, because we've done it before, the moment you start to think like a journalist is the moment you'll have some aha moments, right? I want to make mention also to not give up. Don't let a response of a no mean no. It just means maybe no for right now. I want to give you an example of someone that we helped coach one time that had this exact example. They had contacted us about getting press, and they pitched the idea to us, and lo and behold, they had a complete amazing angle to their whole exhibition that they hadn't even realized, obviously, because they were creating the exhibition. They didn't realize the whole exhibition was around an important social movement. And we said, look, lead with that. Let everything else kind of take a back seat. Obviously, it's an exhibition. Obviously, you want people to attend, but lead with the foot with the journalists on that social movement. It was like an aha moment in their mind to say, wow, you know what? I kind of forgot, right? Just like because we're all creating all the time, that would be an amazing angle to pitch to somebody. So I'm telling you, because I have a publishing background, if you think like that, it will help you. And like I mentioned before, when no doesn't mean no all the time. Going back to the fact that we publish a magazine 4 times a year. That's it, 4 times. So if you happen to pitch, let's say Archive, at the moment we just covered an artist that is exactly like you, we unfortunately would have to turn you down for that coverage because it would be the same story already, right? So I'm having to think about what's new, what's next, what do we have that wasn't covered yet. So it doesn't mean no forever, it just means no for that instant. The news might work differently. The news wants to get pitched daily, and so you could probably pitch them a story all the time and it wouldn't make the difference. So really just thinking like that journalist mindset will really help lead you to the right foot. So here's some things I just want to write down. Obviously this video will be up, so you can go back to this if you need to take a screenshot. But I want to make mention to some places that you might want to go to learn more. If you're looking for some artist grants, you might want to consider looking up Americans for the Arts. Also look at local cultural divisions. Just if you're not familiar with what that is, just kind of Google search wherever you live the city and literally write the city name and cultural division and see what pops up. And I'm telling you, they have funding, because in most cultural divisions, they're getting funded by the government, and their whole purpose is to help out artists like you. Also, the Clark Hewlings Fund and National Endowment for the Arts are some places you can go to look for grants. If you're looking for some organizational help, you're saying, I got all these sales, I don't know what to do with myself. Okay, well, here you go. Look up Artwork Archive. Look up Airtable, which we personally love, by the way. Trello and Asana. Those are places where you can organize your projects, your sales, your content creation on social media. And you make it in an organized way. And let me tell you, I'll say one note on Airtables, it works with teams. So I'm able to go in, Jessica's able to go in, and we're able to tag team projects together, which is really great. Also, design. If you are like me and you can't design anything, welcome. Go to Canva And you can go onto Canva and it is user friendly. Let me tell you, if I can click on something to make something happen, we all have some luck here. There's also some other places you can go to that we've listed here. They're designer friendly. They're made so that you can use them. And if you're a designer, well, then you should be on there even more because it's even easier for you. Also, if you're sending out emails and you're trying to connect with your audience, you're trying to find ways to tell them about who you are and what you have going on, consider using MailChimp. ConvertKit is what we use, and some other great ones that you can really use to connect with your audience. So some of the key takeaways I want you to think about as we kind of end this episode out is to really learn about your audience's habits and self-audit often. Like I made mention to before, self-audit on a quarterly basis. Maybe you want to self-audit on a 6-month basis, maybe a yearly basis. I wouldn't go beyond that because look, technology and everything is changing so fast that I wouldn't go beyond a year. Really take a look and dive in deep and say what's working and what's not working. And if it's not working, just feel free to chuck it, or maybe you edit and modify it. Look, having a community-based mindset is really key to growing and reaching new audiences. Like I made mention to before, it's all about relationship building. And it's always good to remind yourself, what more value can I provide to the relationships and my audiences at all times? And obviously this doesn't need to be said again, but I'm going to say it again anyways. A traditional career path does not exist for an artist. Maybe for 0.001 point of the population it might, and that's amazing. But for the rest of us, we got to hustle and we got to do a lot of different jobs. And so it is your job to start now thinking, acting, and doing business practices like an entrepreneur. And if you think you might already be doing it, that's awesome. Maybe it's just time to self-audit a little bit, take a look at what you've been doing, what worked and what didn't work, and really say, you know what, I'm willing right now to say, I'm going to keep working towards my goals. And that's the whole point of this creative disruption series. We want to make sure that at the end of the day, you're able to take a look at another industry that you may or may not be in and pull from them what is amazing and use it in your business. Okay. And that really is the key here. And I want to make mention to one last thing, if it's okay with you, to just say to you that we're going to be starting a business boot camp. We're going to be starting in January of 2022. And we want to help you. We want to try to help you achieve some of these goals and try to help people that are busy and got not enough time on their hands to do a boot camp, but we want to work with you. We're going to be working with you 2 times a week for 6 weeks. And we want to make sure that this is a part of your lifestyle so you can actually maintain it. You can just pay attention to like our Instagrams. We'll be posting on there and you can check it out there. So I hope at the end of this, you're excited. You are pumped up, just like I am, to keep motivated and to know that you are worth what you're doing. The investment in the arts is obviously something that's so important. So if you're an artist or a creative entrepreneur, just know your importance in your city and your community, and keep striving to make relationships. And also the thing that you can do is just take care of yourself and grow your business. I hope you have a wonderful night, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Creative Disruption episode.